Holy crap, there's a lot of news in this video. My goodness, a tsunami is heading for North America, all the way from Japan from an earthquake. So pay attention, especially if you're on Vancouver Island, which is kind of where I am right now. But on the west coast of Vancouver Island, there's a tsunami literally heading for us right now. So be careful. Also, the fat pig with rabies in Ontario walks back his comments of wanting to basically expedite work permits for people who have sought asylum in Canada. Yeah, that probably could have been avoidable by just not saying that in the first place. Then you also have a lot of panic about the trade deal because it's supposed to be a deal by August 1st, and that's very soon, and we don't have a deal. So I laugh because if I don't, I feel like I would cry. Danielle Smith also has a huge announcement that is related to Alberta separation independence referendum. It's massive. There's a lot to take a look at in this video. The most amount of stuff. I hope you do stick around for the full thing. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I really want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. We're on route to 500,000 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. It'd be pretty awesome if we got there sooner than later. And of course, we are talking about a mix of different information in this video. Stuff from the right, stuff from the left, and the truth lies somewhere in between, which is a perfect segue into today's sponsor. We find this more and more common where the left says something and the right says something that's a complete opposite. So we always have to ask ourselves a question, where does the truth lie? Well, usually somewhere in the middle, which is why I've partnered with Ground News, because they have a way of cutting through all of the crap and getting right to the middle. Let's use this story as an example where Trump thinks Canadians nasty for avoiding U.S. travel banning booze, says the ambassador. You can see here with the bias distribution bar that 74% of the sources are left leaning. And when you go and filter by the left, you can see that it's all about Canadians being proud to be called considered nasty, defending it. It's just a very biased take. And when we go to the right, you can see a little bit more of an objective take as to why Trump made those comments. This is why it's actually important to take opinions from the left and opinions from the right so that you can see the truth lying right square in the middle. And it gets better because my favorite feature of Ground News is actually called the blind spot feature. I use this feature a lot to structure my videos. It'll actually tell you for the left and for the right stories that you would have otherwise missed. That's why it's actually called the blind spot feature. Folks, I'm telling you, this is the best way to get your news because it tells you objectively where the news actually is. And if you want the same plan that I do, which is a Vantage plan, if you click the link down below in the description, the pinned comment below, or scan the QR code on the screen, you'll get yourself 40% off. Thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring today's video. If you are looking for the highlights of the debate that took place with the Alberta Battle River Crowfoot election that's going on, Pierre Poilievre was there, and he actually kind of outplayed everybody, which obviously political experience would do that for somebody. Then you should go check my last video. It's pretty cool. I mean, the NDP chick there says, check your privilege. And then also in the same breath of air says that it's, you know, Battle River Crowfoot in Alberta, like a small part of the country and a small part of Alberta's top priority to pay attention to what's going on in Gaza. So yeah, there was a lot of crazy stuff that happened, but now let's just focus on what's going on in today's news. Starting off with BRICS. Wow. Apparently, you have President Trump says he may go to China at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping, which is freaking huge, man. I hope he does. And I also hope that that Trump goes to Moscow to meet with Putin, because you finally have the ability of president going and meeting with the people that Democratic presidents have always avoided to solve some of these world issues. So I think that this is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, if everything goes good, of course. China and the United States officially agreed to extend 90-day tariff pause. So that's pretty huge. Then you also have another video from the controversial MAGA singer from America who came to Canada. Well, the smoke bomb hole debacle. Now we have some more information, and the police are on a hunt for the person who threw that smoke bomb in the church.
Breaking everyone, we have the footage of the man throwing 2 smoke bombs at Sean Fort last Friday in Montreal at the Ministerios Restauration Church during his worship service. Watch.
We're just going to pause the sound there just for copyright reasons. But you can see the guy walks in, throws the smoke bomb right there, throws another one right there. And look at that. Vandalism at a place of worship. Absolutely insane. And you know what's crazy is the fact that Rebel News has the footage. Rebel News is doing a better job of investigating the issues than what our police force is doing. So kudos to them. Go check them out. That's absolutely insane, man. What Ezra's doing with Rebel News is just freaking phenomenal. Unmatched in this country. And then we got to take a look, since we're talking about unmatched, you've got housing prices are tanking to historic lows. Glenn, shout out to all those who remember that one. You have Market Mania post on X saying someone purchased what looks like a effing shed in Hamilton for 500,000 smackaroos in 2024, now selling for a 33% loss in 2025. You can see now it's up for $335K when they purchased in 2024, a year ago, for $500K. So, hey, elbows up though, right? Elbows up. We're all good, man. Housing prices are tanking. Interest rates are high. I mean, we've got unemployment skyrocketing. Inflation is apparently coming down, but cost of living is saying hella up. But yeah, it's all good, man, because, you know, sure, why not? If you're not laughing, you're crying. And speaking of crying, this man right here, the fat pig with rabies, walked back his pledge to issue work permits to asylum seekers. Okay, first of all, Doug Ford LARPs. Those who don't know what that means, LARP, live action role playing. You know those nerds, no offense to them, who take, you know, swords and wooden helmets and stuff like that, and they go out into a big open field and they role play medieval times and they do all that stuff. That's cool. I'm not harping on them because I've actually seen it in person, and it is what it is, right? It's like, oh yeah, cool. That's called LARPing, live action role playing, where you pretend to act something out. So that's what Doug Ford is doing as a conservative. He's LARPing as a conservative. He's the leader of the progressive conservative in Ontario, yet he's a freaking liberal, man.
Premier Doug Ford had a different message today about his government's involvement in issuing work permits for refugee claimants.
What I'm saying, we aren't taking it over.
But just last week, during meetings with all the premiers, he said he would be doing that.
I'll speak for Ontario. We will be issuing our own work permits. We aren't going to sit around and wait for the federal government.
He said premiers are frustrated with delays, even naming a section of the Constitution they'd use to take more control, Section 95. But today,
I don't want to take the responsibility off the federal government, but in saying that, if you have a pulse and you're healthy, you need to be working.
Ford says getting work.
This guy is so funny, man. He's all over the place. Oh, man, I can't stand the liberal government, the federal government, kicking their feet, taking their time on this. We're going to take matters into our own hands. I would just like to say that we are not taking matters into our own hands, and we have full confidence in the federal government. I mean, it's insane how much he flip-flops, literally like a pancake, which is, I mean, an accurate representation of his circumference. He's just so huge.
Permits for asylum seekers can take 2 years.
A lot of these folks that are here, they want to work. We're paying them to sit around, which is crazy.
The federal government disputes that.
Bro, we're giving away money at provincial and federal levels to people who are coming to this country going, hi, yes, I'm LGBTQSLI, whatever you call it. Give me money. And we're going, sure. Who am I writing the check out to? How much would you like? Because we were doing 70-some thousand a year. Now we're doing 80-some thousand. I don't even know. Numbers are made up in Canada. Welcome. Like, it's just crazy. It's crazy. And they're spending billions of dollars on hotel accommodations. And it's just no wonder we are broke as a country. We have idiots in charge. And speaking of idiots, perfect segue into the top issue here in the first world-ish. You've got this ongoing conflict between Hamas and Israel and Iran, and blah, 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 blah. Palestine. Where's Palestine? What is Palestine? I don't even freaking know, nor is it even the forefront of my brain. I feel bad for people that are in conflict and in war. Of course, lots of atrocities and deaths and shit that just is like messed up that happens in war. But Canada, like, that's kind of what I like to try to focus on, at least while we're still a country before we get absorbed by America. Freedom. So what's the rest of the world thinking about Palestine? Well, the UK, and you know Carney's going to follow suit because that's where he's from, baby. Carney is a UKer. So UK will soon recognize Palestinian state in September. Palestine will be a state in September unless Israel agrees to a ceasefire in Gaza and takes the steps towards long-term peace, says the British Prime Minister. That's messed up, dude. I don't really know how else to put it. How can you flirt with the idea of, yeah, we're going to recognize what you want and what a lot of people are obviously advocating for, only if they don't agree to a ceasefire? That's just like a weird thing. Like, either do it or don't, but no contingency. It's freaking bizarre. Anyways, here's our prime minister who says that he might follow suit with France and the UK.
Emmanuel Macron has announced that France will fully recognize Palestinian statehood later this year. Will Canada follow suit? And if not, why?
Well, the first thing is to recognize the scale at which we do and deplore the scale of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Also the challenges in the West Bank. The lack of respect of the territorial integrity of Palestine and the West Bank. We've condemned what has caused this situation. It starts with Hamas and the deplorable terrorist attacks of October 7th. We are very focused on the provision of humanitarian aid by all methods, by all parties, Canada included. We have more than $300 million of humanitarian aid that's spring-loaded to be supplied, that's been prevented from being supplied to
a lot of money.
Those in dire need. We welcome the early steps on widening the channels by which that...
All right, so you get the point. He doesn't actually answer the question. He just kind of tiptoes around it. And I just want to pass the question off to you. Is this even a priority, or should it even be a priority for Canada to recognize Palestine as a separate state from Israel or whatever the current situation is? Or should we just focus on stuff happening here in the future 51st state? I don't know. I'm going to pass that question off to you and let you guys decide. Then we've got tsunami. Kind of crazy that another tsunami is on the way. The severity of it could be crazy. It could, dwindle down, but let's have a look here at the news report.
A massive earthquake in the far east Pacific Ocean has prompted a tsunami watch for parts of BC. It happened near the peninsula of Kamchatka in Russia in the Far East. It has prompted warnings and advisories for Japan as well as for parts of Russia and other countries and islands in the Pacific. Darius Madavi joins us now with more. Darius, again, where did this happen? How powerful is this earthquake?
That's right. So we got to zoom out. Like you mentioned, Dan, if you're looking at a map, this is in the far eastern part of the map, but it is in the far western portion of the Pacific. We're moving away from BC over here. This is all the tsunamis. This is all the earthquakes that have happened in the past 12 hours. This is the one that we're looking at happening just in the past hour. Magnitude 8.7. This is a massive earthquake. The magnitude has actually been bumped up several times at this point as we've gotten more data in, and there is a tsunami potential for a tsunami in several areas. This is a map of where we have those warnings in red, advisories in orange, and watches in yellow. I want to highlight here on the coast of BC, this is a tsunami watch. Mostly what that means is there's a lot of uncertainty. We don't know if there's going to be a tsunami coming. We don't know what the impacts might be. And so that is mostly just letting people be aware that something might occur. There's nothing known beyond that. There's nothing imminent that's going to happen. If we get upgraded to an advisory or a warning, then there's a little bit more cause for concern. But for now, the advice from the government is leave the water, don't go in the ocean, and follow any official instructions that do come down in the next few.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy that that's going on. A lot of warning, man, a lot of warning. And I'm kind of afraid for the future coast of British Columbia with all these earthquakes that have been happening. I'm actually afraid that you're going to have Vancouver Island just kind of drowned. Can an island sink? Maybe, I don't know. But it's a little frightening because these are natural events that are occurring. Well, possibly. I mean, what triggered the earthquake? Tectonic plates, or if it came from Russia, are they, practicing nuclear weapon or testing that's going on that kind of triggered it underground? I don't know. Who cares what the original cause is? But we know that it's happening more frequently, and then kind of put the cherry on top of everything, there's weapons out there that exist that you can deploy from in the water that can create tsunamis. Yeah, man, kind of crazy. I mean, China and I think Russia have some of that stuff. Not like Tsunami Creator 3000, not that type of specific weapon, but I'm talking bombs, right? Deploying massive kind of nuclear bombs underwater can absolutely create a tsunami type of effect, which is frightening. So yeah, I don't know if that's in our future, but I certainly hope not. Anyways, back to Canadian politics. You've got a lot of uproar for what's going on with the referendum process. So Mickey Amory, hopefully I'm saying that name right, MLA for Calgary Cross, says this on X. Statement: response to citizen initiative process. The recently passed amendments to the Citizen Initiative Act are intended to be broadly permissive and to allow Albertans the opportunity to launch a referendum petition without needless bureaucratic red tape or court applications slowing the process. As it is the government of Alberta that ultimately decides how or if to implement any referendum result, those government decisions will ultimately be subject to constitutional scrutiny. We encourage Elections Alberta to withdraw its court reference and permit Albertans their democratic right to participate in the citizen initiative process. So you've got people within Danielle Smith's government that are basically advocating for, hey, man, if the people want the process to happen, the people should allow or have the process to happen. Danielle Smith even quote tweeted it saying, although I believe in Alberta's sovereignty within a united Canada, the minister is right. Albertans have a democratic right to participate in the citizens' initiative process. They shouldn't be slowed down by the bureaucratic red tape or court applications. And so that is huge. Danielle Smith consistently is saying, hey, if the people want a referendum process, they should be allowed to have a referendum process to take place. And that's incredible. And it's not just her party saying it. You have counter opposition parties, like even the NDP has been going around in Alberta. Why is my voice cracking? So even the NDP has been going around and saying that they should be allowed to do that, right? Because if that's what the people want, that's our democracy. If you want to separate, you're allowed to put it on the ballot. And if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. Even CTV News is talking about this. Danielle Smith's request for Alberta separation referendum question approval rebuffed by Chief Electoral Officer. So here's the actual article. On social media, Smith and Justice Minister Amory said earlier Tuesday that Albertans should be able to embark on gathering signatures without all of the red tape. Their remarks came after the Chief Electoral Officer, Gordon McClure, announced that he had referred the proposed referendum question on separation to the courts so a judge could decide if it contravenes Canada's constitution. Bro, it's like Quebec has gone through the process. It doesn't go against the constitution. It's literally embedded in our charter. I mean, I don't know, probably, maybe, hopefully. It's allowed. It's the process. Quebec has tried and they failed because they never got enough signatures. Alberta's trying and all these blockades are now coming up. Like, it's just super weird. But at least the premier is advocating for a fair process for this to freaking happen. If it's a citizen initiative, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, then go ahead and do it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So that's kind of cool. In seeking the opinion of the court, the chief electoral officer is fulfilling his duty under the Citizen Initiative Act in a independent, neutral, and nonpartisan manner. The proposed question, which needs the judge's approval before the group behind it can start gathering the signatures necessary to get it on a ballot, seek a yes or no answer. Do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be in the province of Canada? We encourage Elections Alberta to withdraw its court reference and permit Albertans their democratic right to participate in the citizen initiative process. That's exactly how it should be, and good job to Danielle Smith and those involved advocating for a free and fair election referendum process. If it's citizen initiative, then it absolutely should go on to be, without all of the red tape. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Personally, I view this as a win because you got the premier yet again shining more and more light on this. And she's also been putting money into educating Albertans and, to be honest, even me, who's not an Albertan, on what the process would look like post referendum should it be successful. Taxes, structure, even getting their own Alberta provincial police set up, which is just ironic timing. I mean, they've had forever to do it. I know Ontario has their own Ontario provincial police. Alberta's had forever to do it, and they chose now, which is saying, hey, in case we separate, we even have our own popo. I mean, it's all set out for it to happen. So I'm going to pass the question off to you, whether you're in Alberta or not. Do you want to vote for this, or do you support this process happening? Should Alberta separate? There you go. Why is it so hard to ask a question? Do you support Alberta separating? Let me know what you guys think down below. And then we got to talk about the trade deal, because the trade deal is coming up. Last time I checked, it's just about August 1st. And well, GOP Senator hopes Trump will extend trade deal deadline with Canada. Personally, I don't think he will, but let's have a look.
Senator, you have been very close to the president for many years. Are you on the same page as Donald Trump when it comes to tariffs against Canadian goods?
Well, at this point, I like where we all are, is assuming that we can get to a long-term resolution that's similar to what we have right now. The 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum are a little bit concerning to me, to say the least. But I think with the rest of it, we can get to a place that's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, I do want to talk about steel and aluminum, but before we get to that, if we just get overarching, do you have any information that suggests we actually are close to a deal, that Friday's deadline is viable?
Well, I think in all likelihood, David, that Friday's deadline may come and go. My hope is, and what I'm encouraging the president to do, is to not issue any new tariffs, any 35% or anything like that, but rather extend the deadline if a deal isn't made. I think it's hard to put all of the onus on the other countries when we're deal making with so many at the same time. And I think he has that sense of fair play as well. For example, with Canada, the carve out for USMCA makes all of the sense in the world. And then applying some of that to non-USMCA things that are in high demand in the United States that are unique to Canada, such as potash, which of course in North Dakota we relate very closely to, and some energy products as well. Energy products, as you know, flow in and out between the two countries as though we are one country. So I think that framework that's been in place now for a long time, I think extending that while negotiations continue is very realistic. Now, that said, we've seen how fast deals can come together, and we know that a lot of good people on both sides are working together on it. Our Trade Representative Jameson Greer is working closely with your ambassador, Kirsten Hillman, and your Trade Minister, LeBlanc. So things are happening, so it's possible, but I'm more concerned about the urgency of the moment and making sure that we do no harm while negotiations continue.
If it is just a question.
Here's how I would go about negotiations, right? I would say that if you're a Canadian leader right now, Mark Carney, and you want to have a good deal with Trump, we all know that there's monopolies in Canada, right? With our phone providers, for instance, Bell, Rogers, TELUS. Those are the main monopolies. You got smaller providers that piggyback off of those guys that offer, like cheaper rates and stuff like that. But for the most part, those are the main guys. Most people in this country are paying between $80 and $120 for their phone plan, and they're paying over $100 for home internet. It's just outrageous. I know I've mentioned this before, and I have seen in the comments, one in particular was something to do with Freedom Mobile. Dude, I paid $30. I mean, congratulations. That's awesome, right? Phenomenal. Not everyone in the country has access to those types of services because their towers or their services are not for everywhere in the country. So most people go with the big three. And it's a problem. It's a problem. There's monopolies. And that's just talking about phones and home internet. There's monopolies all over Canada in different sectors. And this is the problem with this elitist, nationalistic mentality that the left has brought and been able to maintain in this country, is that we pride ourselves apparently on being better than America with having fewer options, but those options are way better than what they have in the big bad America. And this mentality is wrong. So you want to talk about good negotiations, go in there and say, hey, we realize that we've been going about this all wrong. We're going to allow you to bring in manufacturing into Canada. We can have joint plants. We'll figure out the logistics of that later. But that sounds pretty phenomenal right out the gate. Also, bring in phone providers, internet providers. Start to bring down the market, make it a little bit more competitive, bring down prices, stuff like that. Like once you bring in American competition into Canada, hey man, that's pretty awesome. More competition, cheaper prices, everybody wins. But no, for some reason that just never happens. Once you do stuff like that, which is something that Trump has already said before, they don't allow us to do anything in Canada, right? Once you start doing that, then all of a sudden Trump goes, okay. Well, yeah, let's talk about those tariffs. Huh? Maybe we don't really need tariffs on Canada. Maybe not. I mean, they're our greatest ally, right? We've been with them forever. We love Canada. 51st state, right? Like that's how you go about it. You got to give something more than what you're getting because we aren't the boss. We want access into that golden shopping mall, which is labeled the US of A. And the only way we're going to get that done is if we, sacrifice something. That's not saying we give them everything. That's not saying we take a crap deal, but we have to give something that we've probably never really given before. That's how business works. Sometimes you just have to take one for the team. And to be honest, it would benefit everybody in Canada. Bring in more competition into different sectors, bring prices down. It's a win, win, win. But hey, I mean, if only we had somebody in power who could actually, mention that. Also, medical tourism. That wouldn't be a half bad idea. Bringing the health industry into our sector here to open up more doctors, more, health facilities. That'd be pretty phenomenal. Pretty freaking phenomenal. But whatever. Liberals are going to keep screwing us over and we're going to go bankrupt and we're all going to laugh because we're not crying. Because if we're not laughing, we're absolutely going to be crying. That's the end of the video, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.